Okay. So joining me this week as my special guest, and I do mean special guest, is my favorite person in the toy industry and my oldest friend in the toy industry, Jeremy Padawer from Jazwares, formerly of Wicked Cool Toys, formerly of Jack Specific, formerly of every other company you can probably think of. Um, so Jeremy, welcome to Geeking Out About.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so good to see you. And obviously, I will say that you've been a constant force in toy media for so long, and it's great to see
A tiny little force biting at the ankles of
you.
of viewers. Uh, I'm the gadfly of toy media. Uh,
Listen, yeah, but one of the best. So
all right, so I have asked you here to talk about the AEW line. So I remember when I first saw them at Toy Fair in February, I said to you, "You know what's going to happen, right?"
right.
And I said, this is going to be. I said, we all said that it was kind of surreal because it was literally like the feelings of 15 years ago were coming all the way back around, and it felt just like it did when we were all at the toy building, and you were standing in a fake wrestling ring in the middle of Toy Fair, your showroom, and it was the same feeling. It was, I mean, you have to be ecstatic to be back in wrestling
Oh,
figures again.
I absolutely love it, and I would say that AEW has been one of the most uh, active and supportive licensors I've ever worked with. I mean, they're constantly open to ideas and ways to work together, and you see it all the time. Rather than me issuing or producing the latest image, I'm coordinating with the actual talent. The talent's producing the image. Um, you know, it's been great. It truly has been. Their support is amazing. And in fact, at Toy Fair this year, they sent basically their entire crew, their entire leadership crew, and remarkable.
And I got to talk to the young bucks in the showroom while they were looking at their figures, and it was just
Yeah.
surreal.
Oh yeah, they're lovely people and hardworking, and they understand that what they're doing has historical significance within wrestling. And the wrestling fan and community is one that they wrestling for this community is much like baseball is for baseball fans, or basketball or football. It's a sport, but it's also entertainment. It provides just a tremendous amount of enjoyment for people, and so I think that we all take it very, very seriously.
So, like I said before, when I saw them, and a couple of buddies of mine who have known you as long as I have, saw them as well. We all looked at each other, and we all knew what was going to happen. Did you have any inkling? Obviously, you had
Yeah.
hopes, but did you have any inkling as to how much people were going to get behind this again? And a lot of that had to do with you. Like, your name has been mentioned a lot on Twitter, and you've gotten a lot of praise for these.
Well, listen, it's been mostly very positive. What I would say is my expectations were that AEW was going to be very successful, but it was a line that we were going to have to build over time. So two things. Number one, I didn't want to overship it the first year, and I think that we certainly did not do that, as you can see.
Yeah,
But
we're going to
number
talk about
two,
that in a minute.
yeah, but number two, I also felt like if we did if retail came out of this year feeling good, it would allow us to do a lot more in the future. I mean, if they didn't feel good about any particular wave, especially our first few waves, we would have been in mighty big trouble.
Right. So let's talk about the issues. Uh, so obviously, um, you you've completely owned up to the fact that there was a date
Oh yeah,
associated with the first wave, and they
right,
put it in a big, giant, flashy television commercial that
yeah.
they aired twice before they actually came out.
You're right. That is true.
And then, of course, came the realization that because of COVID and the situation with the ports and getting stuff out to stores, that you were probably, in all likelihood, not going to meet that date. And
I
then
mean,
there was a lot of vitriol.
yeah, look, and interestingly enough, our expectations were that we were going to hit that date up until the time that the date wasn't hit.
Yeah.
The reality of the situation for us is that, we were, we were 100% taken by surprise, but also fully understanding of the situation. I mean, let's put it this way. Right now, and especially then, retail workers like you are heroic. I mean, what you're doing is you're going and you're doing things for people's enjoyment and for their own mental sanity at a time when they're quarantining. But you're not quarantining, you're out and about. And nurses and doctors and fire people and police people and all kinds of folks are seen as essential workers, but retail is essential workers too. But it doesn't just go to the retail level, it goes to the distribution, the people who are shipping it out here, the people that are trucking it, the people who are doing all of these things. And I would say that Walmart, under the circumstances, I would say 99 out of 100 times, if there's a particular date, you hit that date. I think this year, what I didn't recognize is that dates are out the window. And in that regard, I know better in the future not to provide a very specific date, because honestly, as much as you'd like to achieve it, anything that's out of your control, you have to provide more of a window than a date.
Or at the very least, not put it in a television commercial.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, it was very well thought out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something that was done sort of halfway. I've never had a situation where you ship on time and with all elements, and then have the scenario that we're facing right now.
I thought it was an extraordinary leap of faith on Walmart's part to allow those, to sign up for those big giant
right.
end cap corrugates. I thought that was a great show of confidence in you.
And let's talk about that. So not only did they sign up for that, but we actually spent serious money making sure on the manufacturing side, not even on the retail side, that we went into each store and got those shippers out on the floor. So we hired people to do that. We were very serious about making sure we got product out as soon as humanly possible. But again, it was an unusual year, and in an unusual year, unusual things occur. And I would say that we're still dealing with that, but not at the retail side, more on the factory side. Interestingly enough, if this had been a brand that wasn't a new launch brand, it may have been a little bit more predictable in terms of the way things go on. But because it was a newly launched brand where factory owners were having to make decisions in terms of, how much materials do we take in during a COVID year? How many workers do we put on the floor during a COVID year? If it were a brand that we had year after year after year after year, they would say, okay, well, they did X last year. They're not going to do less than 20% less than X this year. But in fact, if it's a new brand, one that a factory owner has never even heard of, really, there's all kinds of contingencies that you have to deal with. And so right now, we are still dealing with, I would say, some supply issues. Although we're air shipping product in, and we're doing everything that we can from a manufacturing side. Those are the challenges. But the good news is, and again, the good news is, A, you're getting transparency from us, and I'm speaking very openly about all of this.
I can't imagine another toy company owner doing the kind of fan service info dumps that you're doing on Twitter. It's amazing.
Well, because if I weren't in the position of working for and being a partner in a toy company, I would be a consumer of the product. So I don't see any reason not to share this information. It's not like it's there's nothing coveted about it, and it's all rational. Like, so we are doing a lot, though, I would say, to right the situation longer term in terms of the availability of product. Primarily, and number one, we're expanding our factory scenario. Now, the one thing I would say about that is once you've proven yourself as a brand, it's pretty remarkable what you can get factories to live up to and agree to, no matter what's going on, because they know that they can get people. They know that they can absolutely have people on the work floor. They can absolutely acquire the materials they need to acquire. They don't have any concerns or worries. That's number one. Number two, because we've proven ourselves at retail, it allows us to expand the breadth of the line to have more waves, which is something that I think that a wrestling figure line requires. And so by next fall, so product that's probably hitting shelf, by next August with no particular date provided, the objective for us is to have two basically $20 items side by side. Wave one, and I would say A and B. So A would have every 2 months a new wave, and B would have every 2 months a new wave, but they would be like step laddering, so that essentially every month at retail you have a new wave of product.
I read that on Twitter and I almost dropped my phone.
Yeah, well, listen, it's the way I originally architected the WWE line. So it's not new in terms of developing. It is a lot of development, but it's the right way to manage a wrestling line. So yeah, look, my expectations are there's going to be continued distribution challenges throughout 2020. The positives are that we haven't done damage to the line from a retail level. The negatives are it's been frustrating from the consumer side, and I fully understand it. But at the very least, you're going to get the direct answers from us and from me, and you can count on that. So that's what and C, we're actively doing the things now so that we can avoid having distribution issues in the future.
Yeah. So the other part of the Wave 1 launch that has been a little frustrating was the decision to not send Brandy to Walmart at launch. Can you talk about the thinking behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things. Brandy at the time had not been an active wrestler. She wasn't an active wrestler for quite some time. If Brandy had been as active as she is now, there's no question she would have been in the entire time. But we really liked Brandy a lot, just as a person, as a performer. And our expectation was that regardless on how much she's in the entertainment, we wanted her in the line. And also being an EVP of the company was also important for us. We just wanted to make a statement, like, we really value you guys in your partnership. But as it turns out, she's quite a performer and quite a wrestler. And, but the decisions that you make in terms of how much people show up in a line are made well before how things transpired. Like, right. Even as we go through future series, you'll see over and over again things that seem, why would they make that decision? But you have to take yourself back 8 months and say, well, they would have made that decision 8 months ago because of X, Y, and Z, even though today it doesn't necessarily make as much sense. But that was the rationale. The rationale was, let's get Brandy in the product that we ship out, but there's going to be the set, we'll take her out and we'll put her in replenishment. And what I would say is, doing it over again, she'd be in the whole thing. But doing it over again, I would really want to know that she was going to be week in, week out, a participating professional wrestler, as well as performer and valet and manager.
Right. So just to be clear, Brandy will be in cases that Walmart receives now going forward. Should be. Okay.
Yep.
And so then, of course, the other piece of this that we can't not talk about is the tremendous support that you've gotten from Ringside Collectibles.
Oh yeah, they're terrific.
Yeah, Jonathan's amazing.
and I will say that I've been involved with Ringside from very early days, right as they acquired the message boards, which really changed their entire business model. Jonathan was in college at the time, I believe, in the early 2000s, after the Attitude Era, is when I got involved with those guys. And, I'm glad I gave them the chance, and I'm glad that Jonathan has jumped on it. And Ringside has turned into one of the most important retailers in the world for wrestling figs. And it's been really a joy to watch their business grow.
Yeah, and it was really through them that you started getting the first, because they got them and they mailed them out before Walmart got them, obviously. Yep. And once the impressions started coming in, that drove everybody to Walmart to get them. And I think it's a wonderful hand in hand thing that you've done with them. You did you've done the authentic scale ring through them. It's their exclusive. I have it. It's incredible.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think as we go forward, we'll continue to make sure that Ringside gets cool exclusives, gets meaningful exclusives, gets product in a timely manner. But right now, in the short term, there are moments that are quite frustrating. And if you think on a consumer side it's frustrating, on a manufacturer side it's frustrating. But again, the good news is longevity looks like it's absolutely assured. And that is the way we're going to get through the entire roster and continue to expand upon the roster as it grows.
Yeah, my I was talking with my friend Gil from Nerds in a Bar on one of the earlier editions of this podcast about the fall toy launches and some of the frustration that came from some of them. And obviously, AEW had to come up because no one could find them.
Yep.
And we talked about the fact that that it seems like people have developed this sort of instant gratification principle where if they can't find it now, they get really mad.
Well, me too. But look, I think that for me, it's not mad. It's more disappointed. If I want something, I want to be able to get my hands on it. But what I think what I want to be very clear about is some of this is not the strategic objective. Like the strategic objective was making sure we didn't overship wave one. The strategic objective wasn't to make it, excruciatingly difficult to find.
Right.
Miss the kickoff date. None of that was strategy. None of that was planned. With that said, the strategies that are in place go forward, I think, are going to be very helpful, especially as we get towards Q2, Q3 of next year.
And like we were talking about how, the toy hunts we did when we were younger, like, we were talking about the Playmates Star Trek The Next Generation line, the Deanna Troi and the Beverly Crusher, the Kenner Batman Returns Catwoman figure, which I found on the very back of a peg in Toys R Us in Milford, Connecticut when I was like...
That means that someone had put it there hoping that it would be there later.
I didn't know that at the time. I know that now. But like all those, those sort of figure hunts, and like the thing that Gil and I, said during the podcast was, this is supposed to be fun. They're toys. It's supposed to be fun. The toy hunt is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be life and death.
Well,
and you're not supposed to go on Twitter and drag everybody through the mud because you can't find an action figure.
Well, there's two things that have changed. Okay. The first thing that's changed is that it's pretty serious business on the secondary market. So you're competing with people who are looking at it not just for fun, but are looking at it for secondary market. That's not who we're playing to. We're really not. The only time I'm ever playing to that is when we're doing the chase, and those chase figures are meant to be mass retail figures. Occasionally, we'll send some to Jonathan and Ringside, but really that's supposed to be like a surprise benefit that you get at the consumer level. The second,
so those are supposed to be in stores.
100%.
Oh wow. Yeah, I have yet to see one that hasn't come out of Ringside.
Yeah, well, that's another thing that we are going to be remedying certainly as we go forward. So that's not the goal. We're not here to fleece. And by the way, Ringside is not doing anything wrong whatsoever.
No.
But we're going to make sure that the predominant number of these figures are found at retail, because that is fully the objective. Yeah. So the second thing is social media is very different now. So, but remember this: if you do anything in life, if you have a play that you do, or you create anything, you could get 50 positive things and one negative. And which one do you focus on? You see the negative one.
Right.
So, when you're looking at Twitter, if it's 84% positive and 16% negative, and keep in mind, there's no such thing as even a politician anywhere that has that favorability.
Right.
It's almost impossible not to see the negativity and be overwhelmed by that. I love social media, but that's one of the problems with social media. So you have to kind of look at social media and take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. Like, I get it. Okay, I see. Let's address this. Let's improve. But you can't take it too seriously, or it can make you not want to do it.
All right, so let's talk about Wave 2.
Okay.
Wave 2, all the photos came out this week by and I think it's brilliant that you have the superstars actually posting it themselves. I really think that's amazing.
It's a new thing. In fact, AEW has been super supportive, and that's really been their brainchild. And the upside is that the exposure is tremendous. There's really no downside. The only downside is that, for me, sharing photos in the moment whenever I want to.
Right.
But honestly, I'd rather have it be this way. I like this situation a lot because their exposure is huge. And every day that they do something, it converts someone who is an AEW fan into someone who's also a figural fan.
Yeah.
So I'm over the moon that they're actually participating to this level. I've never had that kind of participation from a licensor.
And I have to say, one of the most impressive things about Wave 1 and Wave 2 are how close the final figures look to the prototypes that we saw at Toy Fair, because you've had to have this discussion with a couple of, you've had to hear this discussion a couple of times about how different the final figures look to what you showed at Toy Fair. And I just read a Twitter comment where someone was like, these are FM prototypes that are made for Toy Fair, and you just posted underneath, this guy gets it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, look, it's true. And I actually saw that comment. My mindset was like, okay, I understand. Okay. It doesn't look exactly the same, but there is a difference between a hand painted prototype and a mass produced item that's on a line where you are still hand painting it, but there's tampo executions. And if we were to do it exactly like the prototype, and the prototype isn't meant to throw anybody off, it's just everybody in the toy business understands it's a prototype. Right. If you were to do it exactly like it, it would require, honestly, we pay thousands of dollars for those prototypes to be made. No joke. We pay thousands of dollars. Like, we could have prototypes for sale, I guess, but instead of a $20 a figure, you're talking about, now all of a sudden it just doesn't make sense. Yeah. So the difference between a $2,000 figure and a $20 figure, I would say, is not all that much. And that's the objective, is to make sure that we minimize those differences every single wave.
Right. And so Wave 2 is Jon Moxley, which I'm so happy. I was so happy to see that he came with the title, because obviously he didn't have the title at Toy Fair. So right. I was so happy to see he came with the title, because I was not looking forward to trying to track down one of the two Jerichos that has it.
Yeah, good point. Very good point.
So it's Jon Moxley. It is Ray Phoenix, Dustin Rhodes, Hangman Adam Page, Pentagon, Zero M, and MJF. So at Toy Fair, it was Pentagon Jr., and then he changed his name. And you guys, it looks like you guys have made that running change, which is great to see, because again, it's one of those things where they go, oh, this is right. But a lot of people have commented on on how amazing the masked head looks on the Ray Phoenix and the Pentagon figures. I read a comment that said, So it's now confirmed that Jeremy still knows how to make masked wrestling figures.
You know what? I one thing that I will say is that Rey Mysterio, as popular and as huge as John Cena was for a decade or more, Rey Mysterio would go toe to toe with him in terms of figural sales. Just honestly, you could barely make you couldn't make enough Rey Mysterio variations. So I fully expect that some of the masked lucha style wrestlers will be quite good in terms of their sales.
Now, are you guys considering doing tag team packs?
Sure.
Because obviously Ray Phoenix and Pentagon would be the Lucha Brothers in a tag team.
I think
And
I
so
think I think there's a couple things. I think the reality of retail is that you get so much space, right? And they
right,
want that space to be very productive. And we're not doing $10 figures. We're doing nicer $20 figures. So to do a 2-pack at mass retail could be $40, which it depends on the retailer. Some feel less comfortable, some feel more comfortable with it.
right.
So I have a feeling that we'll definitely do 2-packs. There's a huge amount of tag teams in AEW, very viable tag team population in AEW. But I think that's also where accounts like Ringside and Amazon will do quite well as well, having that opportunity, and online in general, where there's less fear in terms of price points.
And I think one of the things about this line that sort of makes it different from WWE is the roster's a little smaller.
Right.
So like you
Right.
can use like all the different, like you don't have to repeat figures. Like you don't have to do a Jericho every wave or a Kenny Omega every wave or anything like
Right.
that. You can do like 6 different people that haven't been out before in
Right.
every wave and get the roster out
That's right.
a lot quicker and get
Which by the way is, there's a negative to that too. I mean, like, we want to do a lot of figures. We want to do figures, like I said, every month starting next fall. I don't want to burn the consumers out. I don't want to burn out their roster. So it's all fluid. I mean, if it turns out that once a month is too much, then we'll go back to every 2 months.
I think at least at the moment that um, the AEW fans are so excited to have not just merchandise but like such high quality merchandise coming out that I think that they're ready for more. Like I get the feeling that if you went with wave 2 like this month and wave 3 next month, people would just buy it up.
Oh, I mean, I would honestly wish we could. Like I think that just in general, now that the brand has proven itself in a meaningful way at retail, the demand, the factory, everything's aligned. But again, on the backside, it just takes a little bit of time to get there.
Now, I wouldn't be me if I didn't ask, Jeremy.
Yes, sure.
You've shown Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
And you've shown one other figure from Wave 3. Is there anybody else you can tease for me?
I can't, and I'll tell you the reason why I'm not doing that is because AEW is so entrenched in all of this, and the first time that these figures come out, and the first time the characters are announced, they want the talent to be attached to it, and I think it's awesome that they're offering that. But whereas before, years and years ago, I could just be way off the cuff and say, here's exactly what's happening and
right.
whenever I wanted to.
Right.
Now it's a little bit more controlled, and frankly speaking, I think it's net it's a very positive thing because everything that's getting exposed is getting exposed to a grander audience. Whereas when I say something, it's definitively hitting an action figure fan.
Right.
When they say something, it can convert one, and that's way more powerful. And so no complaints from me, but that's the reason why I'm not just going to off the cuff tell you, another character in wave 3.
Well, so and the reason I ask is obviously because a bunch of people have been asking about it. You had sort of kind of off the cuff teased Sheeta, and then there was nothing else that came out of that tease.
Yeah, and you're gonna find out why. But for now, my lips are sealed.
Okay. Can you talk about conceptually in terms of like other um, items, like the entryway, and one of the things that's really struck me about this line is that people are actually clamoring for announcer figures.
Yo,
Like,
wow, the announcers are epic. I
right?
mean, so I totally get that. I mean, think about you have four announcers that are like known, three of whom are exceptionally known. But JR and Tony Schiavone are like over the top.
Yeah,
So I think honestly, I think that may have been the smartest, maybe one of the smartest things that they did because JR had so much left,
yeah, and
and he
he's showing it every week. Like
showing
it's
it every week. And Tony Schiavone bringing him back, how wonderful! It's almost like reliving your childhood.
and it's funny because like I think we were talking about this. He never got a figure in the WCW line.
This would be his first one.
So this
Well,
would be
how about this? I can't say when, but I will just tell you we are definitely going to do a Shivani. We are definitely going to be doing a JR, assuming that the line is at retail, which we have nailed down. Assuming that the world doesn't envelop all of us, all of these things are going to be happening.
yeah. So can you talk about? I know you said you're expanding distribution. Can you talk about um, what that means in terms of retail?
Yeah, it looks like as we go into spring, we're going to be expanding into Target, and then later we're going to be going into Amazon. But again, the challenges are for me wave 3, just making sure that we get wave 3 shipped on time for those accounts. I mean, look, I'm telling you, I'm not pulling any wool on anybody's eyes. Like, there are certainly challenges from a upstream manufacturing side. Now, not terrible challenges. These are challenges that we're fully head on, and we're making sure that we're literally air shipping and doing all the things we need to do. But I think once you get into, like I said, Q2 of next year, it's going to be like clockwork. That's the goal. Absolutely like clockwork.
Now, do you think we'll see an entrance next year?
Yeah, I think so. But I think if we do it, it'll probably not be a big plastic piece. Maybe more of the corrugate stuff that we did in the past. I just
That
think
would be
I think that it gives people the same benefit
right.
without having a huge cost.
Right, and I mean, if you wanted to put lights in it, you can actually put lights in
Sure,
a
absolutely.
corrugate pretty easily. Yeah, no, I mean, you've gotten a lot of very positive feedback for those uh, pop-up sets, and they actually go on the secondary market for a decent amount.
Oh, they do. I didn't even notice that.
They're very hard to find. I'm still looking.
Oh, no. Well, by the way, that was a very different situation. That was a situation where retail was highly cynical about the ninth or 10th WWE item.
Yeah.
And so that's always one. When you're not the master toy, it's definitely more challenging to find your way under the planogram.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So with the expanded distribution, so now with wave 3 coming out, and I know you say you're going to be doing successive waves in a pretty quick fashion. Will the backlist still exist? Like, will wave 1 and wave 2 still be produced, or will there be a point where it's just like, nope, wave 2 is cut off?
I promised that we were going to go back on wave 1 and do a version 2 with a corrected skin tones.
I did see that, and I thought that was amazing when I read that, because again, I can't think of another toy company executive who would come out and go, "Hey, these were wrong, so we're going to do them over."
Yeah, well, we're doing that, and we're doing that because we recognize that there wasn't enough of Wave 1 manufactured, and B, I think it's the right thing to do to go back and if you can, if there's ever the opportunity to correct something that you may see that you could have done better. So I think that's what we're doing this time around.
Now, we've talked about the announcers. Do you have plans to do the referees too? Because one of the things that's really struck me
Yeah,
in AEW is that the referees sort of have
more of a
personalities,
personas,
of their
more
own.
personalities. Yeah, I remember being a kid and referee Danny Davis was like the only known referee, and I know Earl Hebner and stuff like that, but Earl Hebner got to be more known because of just the duration that he was involved. But there were people that were referees that were like truly involved with the core content side, and oh, definitely, like absolutely, I can absolutely see us doing referees.
I can
And
remember you guys put Earl Hebner in with Kmart box sets a lot.
yeah,
Like
right.
I bought a Kmart box set that had Jim Ross, Jerry Lawler, and Earl Hebner.
Oh, that's pretty rare.
Um, and I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And like he was like the only referee figure that they had for the longest time, was like just the Earl Hebner.
Yeah, and referees, depending on who you're working with, I think referees get, I think, kind of left behind a little bit. But we'll make sure that we cover referees as part of the play for sure.
Well, and you would, when you made Aubrey Edwards, you would be making a figure of the first female, pro
Right.
wrestling referee,
Yes.
which is
Yep.
pretty amazing in and of itself.
Absolutely. You got it. No, it's historical in that regard.
Now, going forward, so like you had Brandy in the first wave, and obviously Sheeta will come along at some point. Do you think there'll be more female stars
Oh, for
in
sure.
successive
For
waves,
sure.
or do you think it'll still be just one per wave?
Oh, for sure. No, we're open to anything. I think AEW has doubled up on their efforts to have a very competitive female wrestling component. I think that when they kicked off, they were very much focused on tag teams. They were very much focused on some of the key talent that they brought in. But you can tell that they're doing a great job with their female talent as well, and that'll be reflected in the line. There's no absolutes. There's no absolutely just one. It could be more,
Right.
and but again, it's going to be reactive. When you're making the figural stuff, you have to react to what is. I mean, there are people that are in the entertainment, that are out of the entertainment, and can only do what you can do. Again, like I said, at best 6 months out, at best.
And I know that people have asked about the Dark Order. So like obviously there's like 18 million people in the Dark Order.
Right.
So like, do you do them as box sets, or do you do them in waves, or?
Um, I think realistically that would probably be more of a box set item. I think if we did Dark Order Wave, I'm not sure. I mean, I think beyond Brody Lee, there's a couple guys that have kind of stepped up, but in the entertainment, it's it's still primarily Brody, and also Anna Jay has been amazing. So like she and Tay are like unbelievable.
Right.
So obviously, only one of them is in the Dark Order right now. But yeah, over the course of time, we're gonna hit on all the high points for sure.
Yeah, I've seen some, and are you going to get to do the golf cart with Sammy Guevara?
That's something that I'm planning on at some point for sure.
Because I know Sammy is like over the moon about, like I read on
Yeah.
Twitter, he's just
Oh no, he's
in love with
awesome.
the idea.
Sammy's such a great guy. He's so excited, and don't forget, even though that a lot of these guys are professional wrestlers and they're very they're very mature in that regard. A lot of these guys are also 20 something year olds, and imagine what that's like getting your first action figure.
I think I'm probably one of the only people that read your comment saying that you were considering doing the the entire stadium as a playset from
Yeah.
that match, and I thought, and I didn't think it was crazy
Yeah.
because I remember you built the real scale elimination chamber.
That's right. That's right. Listen, if you can dream it, you can do it. It's just a matter of making sure that you have the distribution for it. That's all it comes down to.
So I would be remiss, because it's been, the story of the week. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about your tiny little tiff with MJF.
Oh yes, yes. I'm actually just out of hiding. It's been 3 days without any threats or concerns, and I actually also am doing everything I can to become friendly with as many members of his immediate family as possible. So therefore, maybe I can hold that out over his head if he should come after me.
I'm gonna send him the link to this. Is there anything you want to say to him directly?
Yeah, I would just like to say that um, he is, in fact, everything he says he is, including a very dangerous man.
I couldn't, I've been reading this all week. I'm just thinking to myself, what did you get yourself into?
Right? Well, let's put it this way. I got myself into a situation that I'm trying to find myself out of currently. But with MJF, look, greatness is obvious. You can see it. You can see that MJF is going to be a great. And so when
how
you
did the whole thing of him being led to believe he was the only one getting a chase figure in that line happen?
I mean, it could just be that he made that assumption. Honestly, I mean, how much time do you think MJF spends focused on action figures in any given week?
If his is coming out?
Maybe MJF's action figure. I think it's possible that MJF just thought that the entire assortment was going to be MJF's. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say that that's an impossibility, but what I will say is he's a true great. I'm out of hiding. It seems like he's on to the next thing. He seems to be, I'm not going to say appeased, but I'm just definitely going to try to stay not on the radar.
Well, he's got a dinner to get ready for, so
I'm gonna watch. I hope the steak dinner is a breakout 2-hour show where we can just watch them eat a steak dinner with everything. I'm hoping that's Ruth's Chris.
that would be hilarious.
Those guys are awesome, and really, like they get it. They get that the figural stuff is part of the storyline. Brandy gets it. They all get it, and you can see how important this is to them. So we're doing everything that we can to make sure we live up to that.
Well, and like I said, one of the things I love is that you are genuinely interested in what people want to see. Like you
for sure.
very openly solicit ideas, like
absolutely
very often.
I'm very interested. We're very interested as Jazwares is very interested as an organization. We want this, like I said, we're not in this for a 1-year deal. We want this to be, I mean, we want 10 years from now, we want to look back on it and say, wow, the first 100 assortments were awesome. That's
and with TNT having renewed them through 2023 with a second show greenlit, I don't think they show any signs of stopping.
No, and I think that they're in a very good position to continue for a very long time.
So obviously for all of us, it felt the same like a Toy Fair as it did 15 years ago. Does it feel that way for you again? Does it feel the way it did when you started, Ruthless Aggression and Real Scan and Classic Superstars and all the stuff everybody takes for granted now in WWE Figureland?
Yeah, it's actually very similar, because when I took over the WWE line, it was in a prove it scenario. It was after the Attitude Era. The line was still being treated more like a toy line than a collector line. And I was very keen on making sure that we played to the needs of a collector. So Real Scan and Ruthless and classic superstars and making sure we utilize the entire roster. So right now, I feel like we've gotten past what we got past at that time too, which was proving it, and now we can build it. The difference is back then, I could control all aspects of consumer engagement because
Right.
there was no two-way conversation. It was like, all right, I'm going to post something on my jeremy.com or whatever it was,
Right.
communicate with the consumer, and that was it. There was no, now everyone can broadcast. And I think that that's when everyone can broadcast, it definitely makes it seem like things take a lot longer. But the truth is, it took us 7 years to build that lineup. And we're just a few months after shipping the first wave.
Yeah, I mean, I remember calling Anne Marie, and Anne Marie would read me off a list of assortments and when they were expected to hit and who was in them and everything. And
She was great,
she
amazing.
was like I said, everyone that I met through you was just incredible and still are. I mean, I still see them at Toy Fair and we still reminisce about the good old days.
Yeah, well, thank
But
you very
now
much.
it like I said, it feels like the good old days are back now.
I
Like
think they're back. I think they're back. But I'm very focused on making sure that we do a good job.
like we all walked out of Toy Fair and looked at each other and went, "Here we go again." Like Peter and Gil and I all looked at each other and were like, "Here we go again."
Yep.
And it was incredible. Um, and I'm so happy to be on the ride with you again because it was a blast the first time through.
Thank you, and I'm hoping and I believe that we're setting this up to be a long ride, and for the consumers and the fans of AEW, the one thing that I can tell you is that it's all about completing and being a completionist and making sure that we cover our bases, and going to a situation where we double up on the waves is going to get us a lot closer. And the only way that won't happen is if retail won't allow it, and I'm hoping that that's not going to be the case.
I don't see how they could look at the I don't see how any retail company could look at the demographics and the ratings and the just the buzz around AEW and even the sales on the
That's the
first
only thing that matters to them.
the sales. I know.
Yeah, retail. Like if you have the greatest ratings in the world, but it can't sell product, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters to retail is productivity at retail.
Well, you definitely have positive numbers to show them
For sure,
in this.
no doubt.
Like
No
I've
doubt.
never seen a replica championship belt sell as quickly as
It's great.
the AEW one. Like
I mean,
those are usually the peg warmer items. So you can usually always go to a store and find like one of the replica um belts or a couple of replica belts on the shelf, and then the rest of it's barren because people bought all the figures and the rings and everything. But with AEW, everything was gone.
right. That's right.
Like it was, like people like people were buying the belts and the rings because they were out before the figures, but like they weren't treating it like a consolation prize. They were treating it like, I got something AEW.
Right.
And like that was, I think, the big point for me where I knew, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I knew after Toy Fair you would hit something. Like
No, it's more apparent. But no, listen, man, this has been great, and I appreciate the catch up.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
and let's definitely catch up again soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you so much, Rob. This was great, man.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeremy.
Let me know when you publish this, and I'll link to it on socials.
I will definitely do so. Jeremy Padawer is the vice president at Jazwares. He's got his hands in AEW and Halo and Roblox and Minecraft and Fortnite and just about everything else that they put their logo on.
Don't take away my true title. I'm a partner at Jazwares.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I'm so sorry. He's a big mucky muck there.
That's right. That's right. With all due respect to everyone at the company.
He runs the place.
No, that's not true. That's not true. All right,
No.
man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeremy.
All right, buddy. Have
Yep,
a good
take care.
one.
Yep,
Thank you. Bye.
bye.